Hi, it's Ryan, and this is my entry into the new Brit Workshop Easel Frame Challenge put on by Peter from the new Brit Workshop and Inventables, um, showing some of the fun stuff you can do with easel. If you're not aware, Peter over at the new Brit Workshop just got a 750 millimeter VCarve and put it together. And his first project that he made on it was a frame, and he used VCarve software from Vectric and to make this frame. And so the challenge was put out to make that similar frame in easel. And there's some bits and pieces of it that we'll change here to make it look and perform better for our process. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this square now. Let's get rid of that. And then we're going to change the title to New Brit Frame First Cut. We're going to have 3 cuts total on this project, so 3 files rather. So change it to New Brit Frame First Cut, and then we're going to come over here to the material dimensions, and we're going to change our material dimensions to reflect 7.5 on the X and a 5 on the Y, and we're going to leave the Z at 1/2 inch. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make a rectangle, and the rectangle we're actually going to make it 5.5 inches wide, and the height here is going to be 3.5 inches. All of these dimensions that I'll be putting on here, they all play into each other, and it's important to keep them all accurate as you move forward on this. What we're going to do now is, since instead of trying to manually get it centered up, I've already figured out that if we hit center, and we're going to set this to 4.25, and the Y we're going to set it at 2.5. And it puts the center of that rectangle right there. It's a nice space for it. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to our bits, and we're going to change it to a 90-degree V-bit. Now, my 90-degree V-bit is a 1/2 inch wide, which means that the maximum depth of cut before it starts bottoming out is 1/4 inch, and so that's going to have to be reflected here in our depth of cut. We're going to change that from 0.2 to 0.25 and let that sit there. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to change our rectangle to an on-path work path, whatever you want to call it. Now you'll see over here in the preview, that leaves us with rounded corners, which don't really look all that great. Peter did rounded corners on his because he said that he did not believe that easel could do the chamfered corners. Whoops, I apologize for that, bouncing stuff around. There's actually 2 ways that you can go about putting chamfered corners in there. The first one is to hit fill. You can see here as it previews, it does the chamfered corners. The problem with this is that if we simulate, it takes about 21 minutes to cut out that pocket, and that doesn't work for me. That's just that's absurd to take 21 minutes to cut that one little pocket. So we need to make this quite a bit quicker to cut out. So we're going to change this rectangle to on path, and on path is very important for these next steps. The next thing you want to do is you want to go back under your shape tab, and you want to go to all 4 corners. You want to change the position to all 4 corners, and on these corners you want to write down the X and the Y location on each of these. And there's a great reason for that here coming up. So the next item that we're going to do then, we can just change that back to center then. We're going to make another rectangle. This one, let's make it a 3/4 inch rectangle. So we're going to change that to 0.75, 0.75, and we'll drag it here into the center of the project here for a second. Want to make sure that we have the cut set to 0.25, so it matches the on-path cut that we've already put in there. And now we're going to go back here to the shape, and we're going to select, keep it in the center for the position. And we are going to enter in, we're going to change this position. We're going to change that one to 1.625, and the Y is going to be 4.125. And what that does is that is putting that chamfer back into that corner with a really small rectangle. So the rectangle itself, the cut is going to be a fill cut. And now, so how we've come up with this is that those dimensions that we wrote down here for the center, the 1.625 and the 4.125, if we go up here to, if we highlight the rectangle and we check that top corner, you can see it's an 1/8 of an inch offset. And that is what will get us that corner. So because the on path, the cut, the widest piece of the cut is 1/4 of an inch out further, all the way around, than the path itself. So by moving this the square that we're going to use fill on 1/8 of an inch in and 1/8 of an inch towards down, it puts it right in that corner. Now what we can do though is we can copy it and we can paste another one in there, and we're going to keep the center selected, and we can do the other corner. So let's see here, we're going to do 1.625 and 0.875. It messed up there, 0.875. There we go. And now we can copy that one and we'll paste it again. We'll put this one in here as 6.875. It helps to do it correctly, 6.875. There we go. And 0.875 at the bottom there. And now we're going to copy and paste that one again. And the last one is 6.875. Why is that messing it up here? 6.875. You can tell this is all going in one take because it's just a crap show. All right, 4.125. There we go. So now we have all 4 of our corners. And if we zoom in here, you can see everything's lined up real nice and neat on these. One important thing to note at this point is it's going to be really tempting to combine everything. You don't want to do that. What happens there is like, yeah, it messes it. It kind of looks cool, but it messes it all up. We want it to cut these little squares separately from the on-path cut that we're doing to make it work properly. I'm sure if you adjusted the size of the other cut some more, the on-path one, the on-path rectangle, I'm sure if we adjusted that some more, we could make it work, but we don't want to do that. It's easier just to leave it there. Now the question is that you're asking me, yes, all right, so we've done this. What type of a time difference are we changing? well, when we took out the whole thing with the fill, the whole rectangle with the fill, it was 21 minutes. Now we're down to 6. So as you can see here is on the detailed preview, the simulated preview, it goes and it cuts all 4 of these little guys, and then it goes and it does each side individually and cuts it all down. It makes a lot of sense to do it that way. It's a lot faster. I mean, it's almost a quarter of the time frame to cut it this method than to do a fill. So it works out really well. All right, well, and since now we are using the Pro version of Easel, let's add just a little bit of extra little bit to it. Let's throw some text in here. I'm going to use the Arizona font, and let's see here, we'll just make it say love. Text love. Oh. There we go. Yeah, let's just go this way. And we'll delete that. There. So love. Everybody's got to have some love. We're going to rotate it to 270 degrees. And then we're just going to move it over here and we'll make it fit into this bottom section a little bit better. That looks good. And we're going to highlight, select the rectangle itself and the text, and we'll go up here and we'll make it line up. And there we go. So that's the first part. That's the first cut of our frame. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to File. You're going to make a copy. I'm not going to make a copy on this one because this computer acts slow when I do that. So we're going to make a copy. It's going to come up as a copy of New Brit frame first cut. We're going to change that to second cut. Here we go. Second cut. There we go. And all right, now what do? Now we're going to delete love. Love no longer exists in our world. Neither does these little squares either. We're going to get rid of those. There we go. So we're left back with our original rectangle. We're going to go in here, we're going to change our bit to be an eighth inch. It shows up cut, but I'd use the down cut one on this cut. And we're going to change our depth of cut. Go in here and change the depth of the cut. We're going to say, we're going to go 0.375. There we go. So it's a little bit deeper than what the V cut is going to go. So it's going to give us a nice little edge on the inside of our V cut, just like the one that Peter had on his. Really simple. That's the second cut. So now let's go do the third cut. So again, we're going to hit File. We're going to make a copy. It's going to. All right, so there was a little glitch in the matrix, and for a moment here, at this point in the video, I kind of forgot to tell you when you're actually cutting the thing, you're going to have to flip it. And so this is the point when you're actually running the file for the third cut. You need to flip the frame over. No big deal, but before with the first two cuts are on the front of the frame, the last one is on the back of the frame. Just remember that and you'll be fine. All right, back to third cut. Copy of New Brit frame cut. New Brit frame second cut. We're going to change this now to third cut. There we go. And we're almost home. So now that we've made the third cut, we're going to make another rectangle. This rectangle is going to be 6.125 in the X, 6.125 whoops, 5, that's 5.2. I'm dyslexic today. 2.5. Oh, it also helps if I put it in the size, not position. So ignore that part. 6.125. There we go. And the width is going to be 4.125. And that's going to be able to house any of your 6x4 photos and leave just a little bit of extra room in case they overcut it or whatever. We're going to use the center position. Now we're going to use this. This is going to be the same center as our original rectangle. So it's going to be the 4.25, and the bottom here is going to be 2.5. There we go. And we're going to set the depth of cut on this one. We're going to change this to 0.1875. So it'll give us a little bit of a backer material that we can slip into that space, and along with the photo and everything else. So that is cut there. Next thing we got to do is we actually have to send this one to the back. So send it to the back so that now our original 1/8 inch cut comes up with our original rectangle. And we're going to select that, hit shape, or I'm sorry, actually hit cut. We're going to fill it, and then we're going to wipe that fill layer back to 0. So now it's only going to cut this outer edge. So now when it does this cut, where this inside edge of the rectangle is actually outside. Is it inside the other cut? So this will cut this little area here free. So when you do flip this over and you're making this cut, you're going to want to double side tape it, do the painter's tape with the super glue trick. You can do any of these things, and it'll all work out, and it'll hold it and not let it go flying off into oblivion. So, and that's it. That's the whole project. Really simple. The part I like the most is how we figured out how to do the front, and made sure that it was gonna house the chamfers in the corners and everything else. I think it works pretty good. My machine's not quite ready yet to run this program, but according to simulations, everything should work fine. So again, happy cutting. Thanks to Inventables and Peter for doing this little challenge, and hope everybody has fun. And Easel's a lot more capable, I think, than a lot of people get credit for. And I think you just have to make it work to do what you want it to do. And in this case, those chamfered corners, sure, there's probably a button in VCarve that you can hit and it'll do it by itself. And we had to add in little rectangle or little squares in our corners to make that happen. Hey, you know what? It's okay. Easel works well, and it does what it's supposed to do. So thank you. I appreciate your time. If you hit like and subscribe, one of these days I'll put some more videos on that actually do something. So, but thanks a lot. Appreciate it.